Let's get ready to rumble!
Oh, Holly, what are you bringing to the table today?
True Lies on Disney Plus.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. I'll tell you what, right? Because I feel like we're wasting some stuff, so I'm just gonna kick off.
Yeah.
All right. Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, sees hopefully about three things, if there's actually anything in the cinema to see, stays at home, sees around about three things, rates everything out of 5, and then sees where our money has been better spent this week. My name is Tosin, and I am your host, somewhere in the United Kingdom, near Birmingham, in a small town called Bromsgrove. And joining me, as always, on from the Isle of Wight is Shaun Harris.
Hello there.
And our London correspondent, Holly Nestling.
Hello.
Yeah, so Holly, you've had a couple of weeks off in which you've been taking a couple of weeks off to send us pictures from various beachside properties in Europe at sunset, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry I can't be with you recording the podcast. I wouldn't rather be here. I'd rather be with you guys sat in front of my computer talking on Zoom."
Always.
All right, cool. So anyway, welcome back. We are not jealous, not one bit. So we just had a conversation where we tried to figure out the various geographical stuff to do with lakes in Europe and all that kind of stuff, and heard about Shaun's honeymoons. Yes, this is like, there's all these sort of like, mysteries about Shaun. Like Shaun's this suggestion about, it's like, ooh, how many honeymoons has he had? Were they all to the same person? It's like, ooh, how did he get that gash on his head in Thailand? Ooh, what happened to his finger? So,
Someday we will get answers to these questions. Someday.
I'll tell you what, right? I'm thinking about doing some podcast advertising to get our numbers up and get the people who listen to us up and get us some recognition. And if we do that, that's going to become like, a big, massive thing. We're gonna end up with, giving a prize to anybody who can figure out all of the Shaun Harris mysteries.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I was thinking I might have to write my memoirs.
I feel like there's a lot.
I might write my memoirs, actually, because I was thinking back to all the adventures I've been on and thinking how incredibly lucky I've been.
To still be alive, yes.
Yes, to still be alive after all the adventures I've been on. Funny enough, I've started I just did a YouTube channel so I could put up some of the things from like traveling and that. Not much. I'm not like thinking of monetizing it or anything.
Yeah.
But, yeah, one of them, I did this one which was a shave in a village, and it's had like, I don't know how, because all of them have had nothing, and it's only been probably me watching them 10 times that has had the views up, but the ones that's got over 100 views.
Well, it happens like that every now and then. You hit on something that that catches the public imagination, like our persuasion review, which all of a sudden there's something in the ether at that point in time that means that everybody's into it. And
I mean, how would that happen, Toes? Because it's not like I've got like loads of subscribers or anything like that. So it must have.
Okay. For anybody who's listening to this thing, this could get very, very boring. As Tosin explains,
let's go back.
You use some algorithms, but essentially it will be things like what you called it. It'll be things like what you called it. It'll be things like the area in which you filmed it. And there's even times when it can come to, let's say there's something in the background that's recognizable that a lot of people are into. YouTube might recognize that, oh, this thing was actually filmed in blah, 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 Thailand. And maybe there's people who are looking for videos of where to go on holiday in Thailand, and then your video will pop up beside it. And then they'll be like, oh, what is this? Where'd guy get in the shave? So it's a whole bunch of different things. But Shaun, you've got to let us know.
Anyway, let's get back.
No, what is the YouTube channel called? So we have our YouTube channel.
Name. It's just my name.
So it's just Shaun Harris.
Yeah, just Shaun Harris. Yeah.
Shaun Harris, and that's Shaun spelled Shaun.
Shaun, yeah, with the double S.
Yeah, Shaun
and the Harris.
Harris.
With the double S.
Harris with the double S, as opposed to Scene. So it's like, Shaun Harris. Okay, cool. But anyway, let's talk about films. Let's talk about what we've been watching.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, let's talk about films.
So what have we seen in the cinema this week?
Okay, for me, I've seen Asteroid City.
Ooh, Wes Anderson.
And the Dial of Destiny, the Indiana Jones and the
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny, indeed.
Yeah, I remember the first time I actually heard that title, and I thought, that might not be the best title. But it's like if you're gonna go by like titles of Indiana Jones movies, it's probably not the best, but it is better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But this is just plain talking about titles. All right, so you've seen that and you've seen Asteroid City. I have seen Jennifer Lawrence in No Hard Feelings.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. So, in addition to, as I said, I've just rushed out of a screening of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and rushed right here, turned on Zoom to come and talk to you guys about it. I've just seen it with my 2-year-old daughter in the cinema. She did me proud, and she didn't have too many people looking at us going, God, bring a toddler into an Indiana Jones movie. She's making loads of noise. She didn't make that much noise. Although I did have to watch quite a bit of the film from the entry alleyway into the thing, just so that there was something to, shield everybody else from her asking me for more biscuits.
Yeah.
But okay. And at home, what have we seen at home? Holly.
True Lies.
Holly has been regaling us with tales of her, not even tales, just her experience of watching True Lies. This is not the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, because I know there's a lot of stuff about Arnie at the moment. Where he has a show on Netflix called Fubar, and there's an Arnie documentary on Netflix just called Arnold, which is about his life and everything like that. So there's a lot of stuff about him. But yeah, True Lies. This is on Disney Plus. They decided that it would be a good idea to make a TV series based on the same concept as True Lies. And that's about it. And I've heard things, and Holly has just been like, "Oh my god!" So we're gonna have a little bit of a different review that we do. Anything else at home that we've seen?
Well, for me, for some reason, it's like I've been on YouTube rather a lot, and I've been watching quite a lot of because I'm going to go off to Vietnam in October, so
Ooh.
I've decided. So
I feel a new Shaun Harris mystery brewing.
So yeah, and I've watched a couple. I've been watching because you can get on YouTube
old movies,
old movies, yeah. And there was one that I saw, and it's a pre-certificate VHS cut of a film called, but I've already seen it, so our criteria I don't think allows.
No. I think that's good. I think it's old enough. It's old enough, and I've never heard about it. So I'm going to allow it, Shaun, as the commissioner, as the podcast commissioner. I'm going to allow it.
Okay.
So what is this called?
It's called How Sleep the Brave.
How Sleep the Brave.
Yeah, and I think they changed. It's got a couple of titles. Another one was called, I think in America it was called Combat Zone. So. Okay.
How Sleep the Brave. All right, cool. And I've seen a film starring Karen Gillan called Duel. So, and I think that they've done it's Duel. It's spelled D-U-A-L, but when you pronounce it, it sounds like D-U-E-L. And when I explain the synopsis of the film, I feel like they have done that on purpose. Because of the way I feel like they've done it on purpose. So it's like, dual has a dual meaning, but never mind. but okay, cool. Let's kick off with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And just before we started recording, I said, okay, we need to stop talking because I felt like we were wasting some stuff that was good to talk about, which we probably would just have had to repeat anyway. And it was about Indiana Jones, and it was about Shaun. You kicked off by talking about your relationship to the Indiana Jones movies as they exist before this one was released. So go ahead, tell us about it.
Okay, well, what? So the whole story about I did see the first Indiana Jones movie when it came out, and I wasn't too impressed. I mean, the thing is, what you got to think of as that age, and I've often had this conversation, there's films like, and they're sacrosanct films, there's films like your Ghostbusters, your Back to the Future, all those sort of things. I think I looked at, because I was of an age, I looked at those as children's films, if you know what I'm saying. So rather than what I'd been used to in the 1970s, with all...
You're like, there's no Jack Nicholson, it's not indie enough.
Yeah.
This isn't good.
So I wasn't too invested. So, but you wanted me to talk about the latest film? Or
no. This is still just talking about Indiana Jones because I feel like the way you come to this film, I think your previous relationship with Indiana Jones informs a lot about the way you come to this film.
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, maybe I need to revisit some of them, perhaps. Which when we come to the main conversation, I'll explain why. But Yeah, so I wasn't really heavily invested. I remember the first one, and I remember the Ark of the Covenant with all the ghosty things
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
out
yeah,
and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that. I
And the
remember a
melty
few other things.
faces.
Yeah, but I'm blowed if I can remember any of the others. I don't even think I don't think I've even seen them. Oh, I think there's probably one with Sean Connery as his dad or
That's
something. But
the Last Crusade.
I
That's the
can't
third
remember.
one. The
I
third one,
can't
yeah.
remember. For the life of me, I can't remember what happens.
Okay.
I think
Oh,
there
all
was
right.
some sort of car chase and yeah.
Okay, and now we go over to Holly. And Holly, so we talk about your relationship to Indiana Jones. So you just tried to do a rewatch of Raiders of
Yeah.
the Lost Ark, but
Yeah, on the
before
basis that-
before you did the rewatch of Raiders of the Lost Ark, what was your relationship with Indiana Jones like?
Positive memories, but also mindful that I hadn't watched any of them in an indeterminate time period.
Yes, yes,
So it had been some time.
yes.
And the more I think about it, the more I think it may have been 20 years.
Yep.
So it was interesting revisiting because, yeah, it was a sort of positive, feel-goody feel. And I wanted to get my head in the right place because whilst I haven't seen it yet, I'm planning on seeing it. So I thought, that's fresh in memories.
Okay.
And I found it almost unwatchable. I actually stopped watching partway through. And as you know, I will watch literally anything repeatedly.
Yes.
I found it stilted, very sexist. I mean, very, very, very sexist, like eye-wateringly so. It's like, how did anybody make this?
I think this
Really
this
quite
is
racist.
I think this is one of those. It was of its time. It was of its time
Yes.
because obviously with me being black, there's the thing of watching Indiana Jones movies, and when you, I'm going to try and not get too much into the weeds here, but like there's the kind of thing like when you're watching it, and there's a story I'll tell. I've already told you guys about it. That what happened in the film today when I was there with my daughter. That sort of like brings this point in. But when I think about the three Indiana Jones movies, I can't think of a black character. And it was very much the fact that they were made in the beginning of the 80s, the very beginning of the 80s, and the films are set in like the 30s and the 40s. Only just sort of like, because there's the really, really famous scene in Indiana Jones where, you have that, they're supposed to be, I think, somewhere in North Africa, and then he's supposed to walk up, and then this guy shows up and has like this scimitar, and he's like, yeah, and does like all this sort of like thing where he's playing around with the knife, and then just gains out the gun and shoots him. And you're like, and it's kind of like, that's one of those things that sticks in my head is like, well, the way they treat all the characters that are not white is kind of like their scenery, their background. They are there to enable they and their countries are there to enable the swashbuckling adventures of the good old white man, and there is that element in them. Having said that, I do still enjoy the Indiana Jones movies, but a bit like what you were saying, Shaun, it's kind of like, they're supposed to be sacrosanct, and everybody once you talk about films, like, oh, Indiana Jones, yeah, you must have Indiana Jones. The first one I ever saw was Temple of Doom, because that was on TV like every Easter in Nigeria. So Temple of Doom was always on, and I actually thought that was the original before I actually started realizing that there was this whole timey-wimey thing of which one was released when and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't, and becoming a film buff, people would make all these references to, the boulder coming down, and I was like, yeah, because I hadn't seen that one. And till today, I'm still not sure I have seen any of the Indiana Jones movies from beginning to end in one sitting. But all the stuff that happens in it is so much part of the public consciousness that I feel like I have. but a bit like with the Bond movies, which have a very much a lot of the same problems that you were mentioning, Holly. And I think that it's obvious that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, I think that there's a shared DNA with Bond movies. Let me put it that way. There's a shared DNA with Bond movies, and a bit like with them, where you say, okay, what was the plot of that one? What was the plot of You Only Live Twice? Bond stops the bad guy.
There are attractive women.
Yeah, it's like, what was the plot of Temple of Doom? Indiana Jones gets the archaeological thingamajigger that does something magical.
Yep, and there were attractive women.
Yeah, and there was a different attractive woman in each film. Yes, there was. So yeah, there's
that. They weren't great with non-white characters. Again,
yes. Yeah. So okay. So this is all a long-winded way to say this is the baggage that we are all bringing to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Also, not to mention the fact that the fourth movie was rubbish. But
Oh God, it was. No.
the fourth movie was actually just objectively bad. So, the second half led the film down the road. But anyway, so Shaun, tell us about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. What is this? What is happening this time round?
Okay, so what is happening this time round? Well, basically, this is it starts off. To me, this is the film in three parts. So, I'll say at the end. Yeah, I think it's so it starts off. The first part is a train chase, and it's flashing back to like the Nazis.
Yeah, to the Nazis, like 1945.
Yeah, and it's on this train, and there's and it just sees what happens, and then it comes up to modern day. And you see, they CGI'd the face. They did a good job. To be fair,
no, they did it really, because this is the thing. It's actually an extended, action sequence that's set with a younger Indiana Jones. And I was expecting that they would do it, and they would do a 5-minute thing, and then we're done, and when we go up to Harrison Ford, what he looks like now. But it was actually long. Like at that point, my daughter, I watched the film with my 2-year-old daughter, and she has to use the loo. I took her to the loo, came back, and the scene was still going, and I was like, oh, this is actually like a massive chunk that they've done with a de-aged Harrison Ford. And you're right, it was a very good de-aged Harrison Ford.
It was really, really good. Really, yeah. It's probably the best one I've seen, I think. So they're obviously getting better and better, because
they're getting much better. Yeah,
I was really, really impressed with this scene, and although some like amazing, good timings, like when he's getting hacked and he manages to roll out the way and all that. I let all that go. So I wasn't on my thing. I thought, okay, this is Indiana Jones. He's got a bit of a charmed life. He's got a bit of a bit of luck with him and that, and he can duck under things at the right time and miss. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
And so that was okay. And I really, really, really enjoyed the first part of that. So the train chase was class. I thought that was excellent. And then it got come up to modern day, and it got like you were finding he was disillusioned. He obviously has lost his son in the war, I think. So he's a very bitter, very cranky character and all that. And then his goddaughter, Toby Jones's daughter, I'm not sure the name is. She turns up. And she says,
Phoebe Waller-Bridge playing Helena Shaw.
Yeah, and so she brings all this stuff what her father's done, and then it goes on to they think, we've got to find this. It's like a time machine, basically. That's the
thingamajigger in this. That's the Dial of Destiny. Because
Dial of Destiny, yeah.
Yeah, I think with the Indiana Jones film, I don't think it's that much of a spoiler to say what the thingamajigger is and what it does. So
no. So it's because there is a thingamajigger, isn't there? And I've noticed there seems to be a bit of a trope running forward that this particular thing seems to be swap around a lot, like get snatched and snatched back. And then snatched back again, and then snatched back, and then it disappears. And I thought that was very similar from the train bit, and I seem to remember that there was a similar scene probably in the original, but it seems to be that this thing goes all over the place. Different people get it at different times. It goes on the floor, and someone else grabs it. I think that's an Indiana Jones thing. It's like even when we think about Raiders, there's a whole bit about who has the arc at what point and everything like that, and where it ends up. And I think that is an Indiana Jones thing. So but I just wanted to say you're mentioning about the fact that, and this film, you know how there's been this recent trend that when you have a big franchise and they do a version of that, or they do an installment of the franchise that is not maybe as loved as maybe they wanted it to be. In the next one, they kind of like go, "Oh, that never happened." I'm looking at you, Star Wars. Yeah. I'm looking at you, J.J. Abrams. and so there's bits in this where they almost there's bits where they just have these sort of things that you hear that are like on TV, and the TV in the background and say, "Oh no," and you hear it in the background about Indiana Jones's history, what's happening between this film, the last film, and this film. That that's almost kind of like ignoring the fact that the last film happened, but at the same time acknowledging it. It's kind of like doing both at the same time. But I thought it was quite funny, like, because obviously you might be watching this thing going, "Oh, where's Shia LaBeouf?" But the way they went about it, I was like, okay, that could work. So yeah, carry on. You were saying the film in 3 bits.
So the middle bit. So you've got this bit where they're hunting and that, like, the villain from the train turns up and stuff. I found that a bit dull. A bit dull after the first bit.
Yeah.
And then you go into the realms of unbelievability. I'm afraid you go into total like. And I mean, I was being really forgiving, Toes. I swear to you, I was like, okay, fair enough. The first bit, I'm gonna let that go. It's Indiana Jones, and then the most ridiculous. And I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. In fact, it's Fast and Furious 5 ridiculous, in my opinion. So the last bit of the film, really. I mean,
is this the bit in Morocco?
Yeah, and it's like, well, yeah, Syracuse sort of thing.
That bit of the film. The last act of the film.
The last act of the film. So I'm saying that was, I mean, and I would have let some of it go, but I wasn't going to let that. Anyway, let's
I know. Okay.
I'm just going to say.
I think that would be a spoiler.
I'm going to say one thing. All right. I need to talk about this off camera. I'm just going to say plane, all right? Just going to say plane. Yeah. Anyway, so that was absolutely ridiculous, and I couldn't give that any forgiveness whatsoever because that was really, really lazy, horrible script writing.
Well, okay, now this is the thing, right? Because I know what you're talking about, and I'm gonna and. I think you mentioned it. You mentioned it that you said, like, you have to go back and look at the other Indiana Jones things and see if there's, like, references or anything like that to what an Indiana Jones film is. And I'm thinking, right, because I'm thinking about how the Indiana Jones films end. And I feel like there's always this element of, it's supposed to be about archaeology and it's supposed to be about history, but there's always this element of something fantastical. So in all of them, Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's not just we're finding the Ark of the Covenant. It's we're finding the Ark of the Covenant and it's a little bit magic. In Temple of Doom, it's not just, we're going to this place and we're going to find this temple in the middle of South America. We're going to find this temple in the middle of South America and it's a little bit magic. In the Last Crusade, it's like we're going to find, like, we're going to find the Holy Grail. We're going to find the Holy Grail. We're actually going to find the artifact, but it's also a little bit magic. And so there's that. And I remember when I saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Sorry, carry on, Shaun.
No, I was just going to say, yes, okay, I agree that, and there is a fantastical thing, but there has to be something that, I mean, I'm just going to say, I don't see how a plane can have its propeller up against the building, and then how the hell, and there's fantastical stuff. So what's that? That's like, nah. That's like, nah. How fantastical? Okay, you can do all that. I understand that with the films, all this happens, but there's got to be this is what I say in films. People say to me, it's a fantasy film, Shaun. Why'd you get on your high horse so much? Why so silly? I said, well, I don't mind it being a fantasy film and I can forgive it. But when there's stupid things that happen, there
has to be an internal logic. There has to be an internal logic, is what you're saying. Yeah, and
get on, Indy. What? How are you going? Just get out of here. And there's no explanation, or you don't see how certain things are done. How did they get out of that? Oh, I don't know. They just magically
just
go into another scene.
Okay. No. That bit I thought was how they got out of that. I thought was well explained, and this is going to be great for anybody who hasn't seen the film yet. Really? But it is. I think how they got out of that. I thought was well explained. I had a little bit of a quibble as to where did they find a runway. I had a little bit of a.
That's exactly right. And if you look at that scene, the plane is up against the building.
There is.
Take you 500 years to do that, and by that time.
Oh, wait. Okay, sure. Okay, that's it. Yeah. I had a little bit of a quibble about that. I had a little bit of a quibble about that myself. But and I think it's a difficult thing because you have to figure out, like with Indiana Jones movies, there's a balance that needs to be hit. There's a balance that needs to be hit where it's fantastical and it's fun and it's out there and it's crazy, but it doesn't go so much that it takes you out of it. And I was actually thinking about. I was trying to think about this film. If I was looking at this film on its own, as its own thing or anything like that, I might dip into giving this film a 4. But when I think about an Indiana Jones film, because it's an Indiana Jones film and it has that baggage with it, I think it actually does a very good job, for the most part. It does a very good job of keeping this thing grounded and keeping this thing about the archaeology and keeping it about the relationship. I think the relationship between Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller-Bridge works. It really works in a way that the relationship between Shia LaBeouf and Harrison Ford did not work in the last film.
I could even forgive the tuck tucks. You know what I mean? And normally I wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't. Normally,
Shaun, we know you hate car chases. But
I was forgiven.
Yeah, we know you hate car chases. But I think because it's an Indiana Jones film, and because we've had 3 films that, for all of the being of the time that they were made, of the sexist stuff and the racist stuff, and for all of that, they are good adventure films. They are good romps that you can watch and you can sort of like carry on along. And because we've had those, that are 3 perfect examples of that, this one has to be measured up against those. And so for those, I think I can only give it a 3.
Yeah,
Shaun, how about you?
Yeah. If it had been the train scene, if it had been the same train, the train all the way through the movie, it would have got a 4-star. And but I'm going to give it a 3 because that was pretty class. It was. I mean, was superb. And
I was shocked that they were pulling it off.
That one scene, Tosin, that one thing did it for me. That one thing did it.
Yeah. I think I'm fresh out of it. I'm fresh out of it, so I'm still trying to figure that out myself. And I don't know whether you got, but I'll tell you a weird thing though. I don't know whether you got the trailer for the new Mission Impossible film, Dead Reckoning Part 1, before you watched it. But I was watching the trailer and I was going, there's a lot of beats in the trailer for Mission Impossible Part 1, or Dead Reckoning Part 1, that are in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I was like, oh, fight on a train, check. Bridge out, train falls off the bridge, check. And I was going, were these films made in the same place? And it was actually quite weird because the film starts off and you have a train, you have Thomas Kretschmann, and you have Toby Jones in World War II. And I was like, is this Captain America? What happened? It made me think of Captain America. And a final thing I'll say as well, in all these weird things, Mads Mikkelsen is now, and I'm sorry that Sharon isn't here because Sharon would love us talking about Mads Mikkelsen. But I think in addition to all of his other accomplishments, he's the only person I can think of that has now played an indie bad guy, a Bond bad guy, and an MCU bad guy.
And he's done it very well.
Yeah, and Mads Mikkelsen is brilliant in everything he does. He's absolutely brilliant in everything he does. But I think we should stop talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and let us move on to Netflix and Friends, which is the other part of our equation. And we are going to hand over to Holly now. And Holly, we're going to tell you to let yourself free, unburden yourself about True Lies.
Oh, come on, Holly.
Serene, calm, tranquil.
Yes, I like to point out that we usually have a rule on this show, and we have a couple of rules. One is that you can't come and review something before you finish watching the entire season. And spoiler alert, Holly hasn't finished watching the entire season, but I felt that this was worth it. So, Holly, go away.
And won't. So, premise is, as you said earlier, as Tosin said earlier, that it's the television series version of True Lies, where the husband is a spy and the wife doesn't know, and suddenly it all becomes apparent and you've got lots of drama and excitement. And it all becomes clear and they get involved and save the day. So the first episode begins on that principle. And it's silly, but it's fun. You know, perfectly adequate, fairly inoffensive twaddle. But that's okay because there's nothing wrong with twaddle. Then suddenly you have the wife also becoming a spy. Because of course, because why would you not do that? The woman whose job the rest of the time is as a university lecturer suddenly also becomes a spy. And the company they work for arranged for her to get tenure because of course they do. And lo, all of these ridiculous constructs ensue where suddenly they are trying to be different people and they're utilising whatever their cover identities are. He works for a computer sales company and she's this, can go off and be a visiting lecturer. And they dress up in ridiculous costumes, very spy filmy.
Yep.
And the acting is appalling. The stories are appalling. It makes me want to bang my head into a table. And I tried to watch the most recent episode. I tried to watch episode 5, maybe.
Okay, out of how many?
I'm going to have to check this. Also going to have to check that it was episode 5 because it all turned into abject misery in my head.
Yep.
True Lies. Okay, what are you going to tell me?
You keep talking. I'll check for you.
Yeah. So I don't know how many episodes there were. It turns out there are 13 episodes. I've seen some of them. I couldn't tell you how many because they were kind of the same, bit different, but kind of the same. I'm checking who the cast are.
That is because I know this has Ginger Gonzaga in it. Ginger Gonzaga, and for me, because she was in She-Hulk, she was the best friend character in She-Hulk, and she's somebody who I'm like, I hope that she gets something else to do, and this seems to be the other thing she got to do, and I feel like they might not have used her properly at all.
So bad. I don't really know what happens. Things happen, stuff happens. There are car chases and helicopters and absolute complete and utter nonsense. And yes, the acting is bad, the stories are bad. Everybody is suddenly a spy that you thought was just the next door neighbour. No, they're a spy. Random other person. Oh no, they're also a spy. Of course they're a spy, because why would they not be a spy?
And then at some point, Kurt Russell shows up and goes, you know what? We have some highly trained spies, but what we really need is this kind of gang of guys who can drive cars really fast to come save the world. Yes. That's what we need.
And really furiously.
Yeah.
I don't know what the point of it is. I assume it has a point. I don't know who it's meant to appeal to. What do the... I'm just looking to see. So the world believes that it warrants 5.2. The world is an IMDb. The world is being generous. The world is being extraordinarily generous. I don't know why you would say that was only mediocre.
Well,
If it aspires to mediocrity, if it could make it to mediocrity, it would be doing really, really well. I'd consider that a big thumbs up for it if it were just not unspeakably rubbish.
Okay, I think at this point we should point out that Holly is the person who will watch anything. Holly is the person who I believe watched The Witcher Blood Origins and thought, that was all right.
Yes. I've also watched Ghost Shark and Avalanche Sharks, which are some of the worst films ever made. Two-Headed Shark. I have watched all of these and they're bad. They're unmitigatedly bad, and I've made it through each and every one and thought, that was bad, but I quite enjoyed it. This is bad, and I didn't enjoy it. This is bad, and I thought, why? Why have I lost any of my life to this? I am just going to stop now. I'm going to save those hours. I'll go and file my nails. I'll play another game of 10 Crush on my phone.
All right.
I'll look out of the window at the scaffolding and feel more intellectually stimulated.
I think every now and then we find a film that turns one of us into Shaun. And I think we found a thing that's turned Holly into Shaun.
The rage. Why? Why did they do this? Why did I do this to myself? Why did I
think it's funny. I actually reckon that it is a symptom, or it is a result of the streaming wars that we're getting, where you have all these people like Paramount. I mean, none of us really watch Paramount Plus. I know Sharon has watched a couple of things or reviewed a couple of things on Paramount Plus, but I don't think many of us watch Paramount Plus. But if you look at a lot of their shows, they've essentially gone back and they've gone, there's all these films that we made in the 80s, and we're just going to use name recognition and remake them as TV shows. American Gigolo got one. Fatal Attraction got one. Yeah, they did a TV show of American Gigolo. They did a TV show of Fatal Attraction. There seems to be this thing where they keep remaking things that were made as films in the 80s as TV series. And I feel like this is one of these things where people are just, so Disney are going, what do we own? We own True Lies. Let's do something with that.
Yeah.
I made it through 5 episodes, it turns out. 5 of 13, and I feel that I should probably have stopped at 1.
You should get an award for that. All right, so I shudder to ask, how many stars should we give True Lies?
Only because I remember we're not meant to have a 0. I'm giving it a 1, a grudging 1.
Okay,
only on the understanding that it comes with banging head into the table at the same time. So 1 plus self-flagellation.
Okay, I have heard very, very similar things about this from other people. So that is 1 star, 1 star for 1 star for True Lies, the TV series. Yeah, I can't remember what the show is. Shaun, Holly has eviscerated it way too much. All right, someone is demanding to have water from me. So Shaun, I'm going to hand over to you to explain and review Asteroid City for us, and I will be back at some point while I'm still talking. I'm sure. So you guys discuss Asteroid City, Wes Anderson's latest movie. So that is you. Yeah, it's correct. All right, cool. Bye, guys.
I'll see you in a bit. Yeah. So Asteroid City. So we got Asteroid City, filmed by Wes Anderson, obviously. If anybody likes their Wes Anderson films, Holly, do you like Wes Anderson films?
Yeah, I generally do.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I love them. I think they're terrific. So anyway, so the story on this one, it starts off with it's like a TV play, and it starts off with the presenter Bryan Cranston, and he's sort of done up in the 1940s, 50s, 50s like TV black and white presenter, and he goes, okay, this is the story of a fictional city called Asteroid City, and then you get old Norton, who's like the writer of the play, and it's a bit like that, and so he goes. So it's at stage left we have the motel, at stage right we have the asteroid, and then you go in. So that's black and white, and then you go into this really, really sumptuous Asteroid City, this play, which is like a place in the middle of the Arizona desert where they've obviously had atomic tests and things, and it's called Asteroid City because there's this one like little small asteroid that is covered up, and so basically the story is they got the Stargazers convention, which is youngsters that are really, really good as scientists. And so this father turns up with his son and 2 daughters. The car breaks down, so they get stuck there. He phones his father-in-law, who is Tom Hanks, who says he'll come and get the kid. And then there's different plots that go on throughout the film. Who's that little thing there looking? Anyway,
Matt. He wants to say hi.
Hello, mate. You all right? So anyway, the story basically it's like a Wes Anderson. You get during the film you get a busload of elementary students turn up with their teacher. You get a cowboy band, country singing band that turn up as well. You get this famous actor and her daughter who turn up, and then there's like they're having the convention thing. They're having the general turns up and he's having a talk. He says, "Oh, we're here this week," and then an alien turns up.
Of course,
comes a little crap, of course, and then it picks up the asteroid and sort of Jeff Goldblum. Anyway, but it's a CGI'd, and he picks up the asteroid. And he sort of looks gingerly and he takes it off, and then they decide that they're going to put the city in lockdown. So you've got all these characters here. You've got the cowboy band, you've got the elementary kids, you've got the actor, you've got the actress, you've got all the stuff interspersed in between them. So you can imagine if you know Wes Anderson what it's going to be like. And then the town's put in quarantine, but it's out, and loads of people come up and they put like a fun fair there and stuff. And all the time as well through it, it keeps flashing back to the director and the producer, but it's blooming brilliant. It's lovely and sumptuous, and it is a really, really lovely movie.
Oh,
hello, Toes.
Hello. I think I just heard the words "really, really good movie."
Oh yeah, wow. I mean, I was just saying that. So I've just run through them real quickly for you for like characters. Basically, found in the desert, Asteroid City. They've got a convention on. A young person convention. Guy turns up with his young son, who's really, really clever, and a couple of young daughters. The car breaks down. He can't get away. A busload of elementary students turn up. An actor and a daughter turn up. A cowboy band turns up, like a country band. So real colourful characters. The proper, you can imagine, Roy Rogers.
So far, so Wes Anderson.
So Wes Anderson, just totally Wes Anderson. Interspersed with them explaining the show like this in 3 acts.
Yeah.
And the alien comes down, nicks the asteroid, brings the asteroid back. They close the city. so quarantine the city, but it's all heard about, so all the public turn up and there's all this stuff going on. And for me, I mean, I think I heard somewhere that some people had some issues with this one, saying, oh, it's not Wes Anderson. But I absolutely adored this film. I thought it was absolutely fabulous.
Okay.
There was so many stars in it. I guess, what is it with Wes Anderson? Does everybody just want to work with Wes Anderson?
I think Wes Anderson has built a reputation where people just want to work with him. He's built a reputation because, I heard an interview with, I think it was an interview with the Empire podcast, and there was Jeffrey Wright, Bryan Cranston, and Adrian Brody, who are all in the film. They were talking about how off screen people have so much fun on a Wes Anderson project that they just want to be part of it. They just want to be part of it. So yeah, I think he must do that. But also, I think it's the fact that you have to be honest that there is nothing, whether you like him or hate him, there is nothing like a Wes Anderson film. You look at I remember watching Rushmore. Watching Rushmore 1998. It must have been. I was in Canada, and it had just come out, so it hadn't even come to the UK yet. It was in Canada, and my cousins were watching it. They're like, "Oh my god, you gotta watch this! It's so great! It's so great! It's this new thing." It was I think that was his first film, and was Bottle Rocket before that? Okay, never mind. But it was one of his early films, and I remember watching it and just thinking, I don't get this. I don't see why everybody's on about it. And it wasn't until probably Grand Budapest Hotel. Because I think Grand Budapest Hotel is his best film.
Yeah, everybody think that is the best.
Yeah, because I feel like it has the Wes Anderson stuff about it, but it has the emotion, it has the story, it has the sort of poignancy, and I was like, oh my god, he's distilled everything. It's become this whole thing. And because Asteroid City, it sounded like it was Wes Anderson does an alien movie. So like a sort of 1960s alien movie with the Wes Anderson trapping light colors and it's
fabulous colors, but also juxtaposition with because you've got Edward Norton, who's the writer of the play, because it's supposed to be like a 50s or 60s TV show, and Bryan Cranston, I thought, was Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. But not Two-Face. Anyway, but he played it so deadpan. He was like the proper TV presenter, 1950s suits with the sort of flared trousers. And he says, okay, so our present, and that sort of in black and white goes, our presentation tonight is going to be, and then it talks, stage left will be the motel, blah, stage right. And so, okay. It's
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Shaun, but I'm going to get out of the way so you guys can see what I'm dealing with now. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh. Hello, sweetheart.
For those listening, my daughter has just come into the Zoom thing behind me and has taken off one of my boxes from my bookshelf and has just put herself in it and has decided that is probably her boat, because that's what she calls whenever she gets into a book. It's her boat. So yeah, so she wants to show it off. So I thought I should show it off for Uncle Shaun and for Auntie Holly. But anyway, so
hello, my love.
So I'm gonna give this film 4 stars. I did really, really enjoy it. I did really, really, really enjoy it. I thought it had a lot going for it, and I sat there and I thought, because I forgot to tell you, I actually, like we don't get them at the Isle of Wight, films on the Isle of Wight. When it was released, it wasn't released, and it's probably nothing to do with it at all. But I actually, the only time I've done it ever, I think, is I emailed Cineworld and says, "What is going on? Why haven't we got Asteroid City? You've put the display in the thing. We've seen the trailers. We've seen it on the buses. You have not got Asteroid City. It was released last week. It's showing at Bournemouth. It's showing at Chichester. It's showing in Blooming."
Yeah. It's like don't show a poster if you're not going to show the film.
And then it turned up. So I don't know. It probably had nothing to do with it whatsoever, but I like to think that perhaps
Shaun, I've told you it's about the pull. It's about the pull that you have. That's the kind of cachet you have now on the island. They're like, oh my god, Shaun Harris, don't annoy him. So I told you that. Okay, so how many stars would you give Asteroid City?
4 stars. 4.
4 stars for Asteroid City. All right, cool. And now we go back to Netflix and Friends on various streaming platforms, and I'm going to talk about a film called Duo. And I mentioned earlier about how when you say duo, like people are saying, are you saying dual or are you saying duel? And I think that this is done on purpose in this film. It's done on purpose in this film because, there's a dual meaning to duel, so to say. Because this film stars Karen Gillan, and it's in a world in which what happens is if you have a terminal illness, you can get a clone. You can get a clone that looks exactly like you, and you can train the clone to do everything that you do, so that when you die, the clone takes over from you, and then your loved ones are spared the pain of you dying, because they won't even realize you've died. They won't even realize you've died. They'll just see that, as far as they're concerned, you just continue carrying on because you've gotten a clone made that sort of replaces you. Kemi, it's okay. Okay, don't worry. We'll look after it. I'll kiss it better in a second. And so Karen Gillan stars as this woman who takes this up because she finds out that she has cancer. And she has a boyfriend. She has a mom. She's like an only child. So she gets the clone. She starts training the clone up to take over her place, and then she realizes that she gets told that her cancer is in remission. And so because the cancer is in remission, that means that she's like, okay, cool, I don't need the clone anymore. But the clone is now here, and the clone wants to stay. And the wrinkle is her family prefer her clone to her. So you fixed it. Oh, well done, Kevin. Well done. Can you take it back to the bookshelf? Thank you. So the thing is that her family prefer her clone to her, and the law is if a clone wants to stay around, there has to be a duel, so a duel between the clone and the original person to the death, and whoever wins gets to live.
Wow.
So it's at Shaun. I think this is one of those films where I think the guy who made this film is kind of like, he's not Wes Anderson, but you know how people talk about a Wes Anderson film. He has a very particular way of making his films, where everybody speaks in this really, really deadpan way, and there isn't much emotion in it or anything like that. And you have this absurd situation where her boyfriend thinks her clone is better, her mum thinks her clone is better, and wants to keep them. Yeah. So, but they have this whole world. But the fact is that as long as the clone is around before the duel, she has to pay for the clone. So she has to pay for the clone. She has to keep the clone's upkeep, pay for the rent, pay for the food, all that kind of stuff. So and then they give them a date, and they say, this is the date that your duel is going to be on. So she has to go into training, and she goes into training, and she gets trained by a character played by Aaron Paul. Thank you. She gets played by a character played by Aaron Paul, and he's like, he trains people on how to do this fight, and he's like, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take your thing out. Remember that they're just like you at all. And a lot of the film becomes her training, but training in this very, very, it's kind of like, it's almost as if Wes Anderson did a Rocky montage of training. It's very deadpan. It's very kind of like, oh, it's kind of like, are we actually going to do this or not? And then there becomes a bit where her clone and her start developing a relationship and and to say anything else would be to give a spoiler as to actually what happens. But the film builds towards this duel that these two people are going to have, whether it's between the clone and the original, to see who's going to hang around. And it is weird. It is weird, but it is, if the synopsis of the film or the basic idea of the film tickles you, you are probably going to like this film. That's what I'll say. You're probably going to like this film. It's on Sky Cinema, and it ends in a very kind of like, probably I'll say existential place. But I think I actually quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it, but at the same time as I was enjoying it, I was thinking, some people are not going to like this. This is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But I think there's enough in it to make it enough people's cup of tea. So all in all, I would give Duel, I think it sneaks into a 4. Duel sneaks into it sneaks into a 4 for me, because I actually quite enjoyed it, even though it was very mannered.
Is it like that? Any similarities between? I think it was called. There was that Michael Keaton film, wasn't there? Was it called Duplicity?
Multiplicity. Yeah. It's no, it isn't. I mean, okay. It has a central thing of there being a clones. I think in that one is the guy who he decides that if he clones himself, he can get more time, because he can have a clone that does this, a clone that goes for dates on his wife, a clone that goes to work, a clone, so that he can. But this is different. This is just like she's trying to relieve her family the stress of her not being there, and then she realizes that the family didn't particularly like her anyway. The people in her life didn't particularly like her anyway, and they prefer the clone. So yeah, I would give Duel a 4 out of 5 on Sky Cinema. I would say go see it. And now we go back over to cinema, and it's me again with a film called No Hard Feelings. No Hard Feelings. This is Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence doing a I mean, the synopsis of this sounds very much like. Do you remember the time around the time when Superbad and Knocked Up and all these Seth Rogen comedies were getting made? Things like Pineapple Express and all that. This sounds like Jennifer Lawrence doing one of those films. So essentially, what the idea behind this film is that you have Jennifer Lawrence and you meet her, and she lives in sort of like upstate New York. So one of these towns, like on the coast, where people from New York go and have like holiday homes and everything. And she's been there since she was a kid. But because all these people keep coming in and buying holiday homes, she's being priced out. She's being priced out of where she's living. And she's an Uber driver. That's how she makes ends meet. But her council tax is going up because of all these rich people moving in. She can't pay the council tax, and because she can't pay her council tax, they come and repossess her car, and they take her car away from her. She's like, how am I supposed to make money to pay the thing if I don't have a car to earn money to pay the thing? And she goes on Craigslist, and on Craigslist she sees an advert for some parents who are advertising that they're looking for a lovely young woman to date their son. And it turns out that it's paid by sorry, Shaun.
Can I ask what is Craigslist? I've heard before. I've got no idea what it is. I've heard about
Craigslist, or I think some people call it Craigslist because it's American. So it's kind of like when you have like the classified ads in old newspapers.
Yes.
Craigslist is essentially like an online version of that. So people put all sorts of stuff on there, looking for a partner, looking for this, looking for somebody to kill, looking for someone who will let me watch TV with them, looking for somebody for sexual favors. All like that. So it's because the internet. So on Craigslist, she finds these people who are offering, because she's looking for a car. They're saying they're looking for someone to date the young son who's about to go off to university, and it turns out it's Matthew Broderick, and I cannot remember the woman's name. She was in Supergirl. She plays Melania Trump on Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And each time I see her, I'm like, I know her from somewhere. I've got to get her name, but I cannot remember her name. But they play this helicopter parents of this 18-year-old kid who's about to go off to Stanford, I believe it is. He's about to go off to Stanford, but he is 18 years old. He's been sheltered his whole life. Doesn't really have any friends. Doesn't really do anything out of the house. And they think, to really break this child out of his shell, what we need is for somebody to date him and have sex with him, and then when he has sex, he's going to be released. He's going to be a new man, and then we can send him off into the world, and we can be happy as parents that we've done the right thing. And they say that they will give her a car. They'll give her a car for this. Sure, Holly, you found her name.
Yes, Laura Benanti.
That's it, Laura Benanti. She's big on Broadway. Hasn't done as much stuff on screen, but each time I see her, I'm like, I know her from somewhere, and it's from playing Melania Trump on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And they say, okay, he can't know about this. He can't know that we are doing this, because if he knows that we're doing it, it's just going to defeat the whole object. So the whole film is Jennifer Lawrence, who is 32, and in the film, the character is 32, trying to seduce an 18-year-old and have sex with him, because then she will get a car. That is the plot of this film. And there is obviously, if you swap the genders of these people around, this would be a very, very icky film. It would be a very icky film. And they sort of acknowledge that in the film. They acknowledge that, it's a bit of an icky thing. But for me, it's very much like in the vein of those early sort of like comedies like Knocked Up and everything like that. Because I keep coming back to Knocked Up, because Knocked Up I thought was a film that had a very lewd kind of base one frat boy premise, but managed to actually have some bit of heart in it by the end of it. And with this, I don't want to sort of try and talk about the jokes or talk about anything like that, but this does a very similar thing. Where what happens? I feel like what happens in this film. Can we No, I said quiet voice. What bit of quiet voice do you not understand?
All of it, Daddy.
Okay. So and I'll give this one 3 out of 5. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to pull up there and say I'll give it. Kenny, I'll give it 3 out of 5. It ends up having quite a bit of. I think it ends up having quite a bit of heart. The relationship between the kid and Jennifer Lawrence ends up being kind of touching. but I think it has all the touch points and all the things that you would expect to happen in this film. So it's good. It's a good time. Kemi, quiet. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's a 3 out of 5. And now I'm gonna mute myself now.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute myself, and I'm gonna let Shaun tell us about How Sleep Depraved.
Okay. So, How Sleep Depraved. Okay. So, basically, I've been watching lots of YouTube because there's so much good stuff on YouTube. It's almost like you can go down a rabbit hole, and so a lot of documentaries, a lot of war stories. Now, and I found this Vietnam War film, which I saw about 1982, it must have been, and it was on a VHS cassette, and it was pre-cert video nasty. So it is, and so pre-cert video, and this is the one they've got on YouTube. I mean, there's some. They renamed it something else. I think it was also known as Once Upon a Time in Vietnam, and also known as Combat Zone, but it was heavily cut, heavily censored, because this basically it's a story about an infantry platoon that goes out on search and destroy missions, and it's the funny thing is it's filmed in the English countryside. I think it must be somewhere in Berkshire, so the actual jungle scenes have got like British ferns, and it all takes place in England, but even though it's supposed to be Vietnam. But the equipment's great. The weapons are pucker. They're okay, and it's just basically a shoot 'em up film. It's just basically this members of this platoon getting killed out on a mission, and I mean it's very, very bloody, very, very bloody. I mean, like we're talking like shooting hands off people, and people being disemboweled, and it's pretty nasty stuff, which was all cut out after the video nasty era. And it's not that nasty, don't get me wrong, it's not. I mean, there was a lot of these things come out, like Vietnam stuff, like apocalypse stuff and stuff like that, which was really bad. But this is just really a combat. This is pre-platoon. And I think a lot of the later Vietnam films probably take a lot of their beats from that. So that, funny enough, I don't do this very often, but I actually looked on IMDb to see what the other ratings were of people. So this is what it goes: brutal honesty of the realities of the Vietnam War, 10 out of 10 for me. As an 8 out of 10, an 8 out of 10. What was that? It doesn't say in that one, but anyway, these must all be people that saw it. And I've watched this film multiple times. on VHS, and it's just terrific. It's swearing is unbelievable. And I suppose being a young person at that time watching all these Vietnam films, I used to love all the swearing. I mean, and we're talking, the mother, blah blah blah. In fact, there's even one, but he goes. Someone says, "You guys should listen to yourself. You're nothing but a bunch of foul mouth." And he goes, and then you can imagine what happens there. And I think with all these films, I like these films where you've got a bunch of blokes, a bunch of soldiers, a bunch of cowboys. These are my sort of films, and it's all about the interaction between them, and the superstitions and how they are. And some people really, really like other people, and they all sort of bond together. For me, I think a lot of my favourite movies, Wild Bunch, Major Dundee, Bridget Remark, they're all films where you've got a bunch of blokes that are in a situation where it's like something that's really, really happening tense. Some of them pass by the way, arguments, all sorts of things.
So Shaun, you're saying your favourite films are usually about a bunch of blokes who share a brotherhood.
Yeah, who share brotherhood, definitely.
Who share brotherhood.
As you go through it, and because I mean it's all the interaction as well. Do you know what? I love action. I love the action. I like nothing better than sitting around with a bunch of blokes and chatting and swearing and that sort of thing. But this is much the same, but it's very, very intense. It's very, very bloody. There's a lot of combat in it. To me, from all the documentaries I've watched about the Vietnam War and the battles and all that, this is how I could imagine it being. Really, really quite nasty, from both sides. And there's some nasty things that happen in it. and it's very foul-mouthed, and I think it was heavily censored after. But
Okay, but Shaun, what I was saying is that you like films that are about a bunch of guys sharing a brotherhood, becoming a family, if you will.
Yes.
And yet, you're trying to tell me you don't like the Fast and Furious movies. You're trying to tell me that you don't like the Fast and Furious movies.
Well,
I call foul.
But there's girls in that. Anyway, they've got girls in the team as well, so it's not a bunch of blokes, is it? It's mainly blokes, but there are a few females in there.
Shaun, I think that's the wrong argument to be making about the Fast and Furious movies.
Too many girls. That's the problem. It's what they've always said. Too many girls in the Fast and Furious films.
Yeah, when they do those slow-mo bits, it's all about family. It's all about family. Yeah, I mean, but the films I'm talking about is where there are intense scenes of mainly combat and so the highs and the lows. So I mean, when you read accounts of soldiers that have been in battle and the adrenaline and all the pump, and then the sort of the come down from it, as you will, and the lead up to it. So, but it's got lots of action in it. It's nearly fighting all the way through. They burn the villages, they shoot the people. Some of them get killed. They got a really hard ass captain. I could quote this film. This is one of the films that I could. There's certain films that I probably know all the dialogue. This would be one of them, but it's most of every third word is a swear word. So I can't really mention it. But yeah, no, I love this film. It's not a particularly good quality, and there's a really good song in it as well that I've tried to get. So yeah, but the quality of it is not the best.
So video, but it's the quality might not be the best, but they had something apparently.
Yeah, because... I think this it's sort of where Platoon, all those other ones, sort of got there.
You know what it is, right? Sure. This film, as much, and this might have something to do with the fact that I'm pretty sure you and Quentin Tarantino have the same brain. But it sounds to me like the kind of film that Quentin Tarantino would be like, oh yeah, and he would rave about it. Oh, this is brilliant, and everything like that. It was great. Oh yeah, no, it's so good, so good. I mean, it's all in the English countryside, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It sounds to me like the kind of film that he would talk about that, because I still want to see you and Quentin Tarantino sit down and have a chat, because I figure that you guys would just sort of like rave about the same things, and all of us, like Holly, myself, Shaun, we'll all just leave and we'll come back 2 hours later and you'll still be there. Talking about all the same things you loved when you were kids. But all right, so how many stars for House of the Brave?
I would give it a 4, but the quality's not that good, so I think it must have been taken off a VHS copy, because there's one bit where, like the old screen, you go through it. It's not it's where the tracking goes a bit, so it's not the best quality film, but it is highly charged, a lot of action, and very quotable, and yeah, I really, really like it. So I'd have to give it a 4-star, but if we're saying quality, probably the grainy quality, VHS quality. But it's pre-certificate, so it's pretty damn good. So 4 stars.
Okay, 4 stars for House Leave the Brave. All right, cool. And now all that is left to say is to ask, who do you think has won this week? Who do you guys think? Do you think it's been a Netflix week, or do you think it's been a cinema week?
I've got a feeling it's really, really close.
I think it's going to be cinema, because my absolute loathing of True Lies.
The one.
Will have knocked it down.
Yeah, definitely. Cinema wins.
Yeah, so if they hadn't spent the time and effort making such a bad series, then it could have been up. But I'm afraid it's just ruined everything for everyone. If you can't make good things, then you can't have nice things. Just say.
Right.
Okay, so what we have here, I can let you know that it's closer than you might think. There's only 0.3 in it.
What?
There's 0.3 of a star in it. And yes, the winner this week is cinema by 0.3 of a star. Because even though True Lies should have just sort of like that should have been it. But we had 4s. The rest of the stuff on Netflix and Friends was 4s this week, and the stuff that we had on cinema, we had 2 3s and a 4. So True True Lies tried, and the rest of Netflix and friends trying to bring you back, but hey, never mind.
Yeah.
So I think
ruining things for everyone.
Ruining things for everyone. So I think that is everything for next week. Until next week, when we shall be seeing. Well, I know I'm going to be watching Elemental. Elemental is my film that I have on my dock to see, which I know Sharon is not going to see. So at least I'm going to watch it because it's the next Pixar. Pixar, great.
Oh, right, okay. Are you going to take to see that teenage Kraken or thing, whatever? I mean, I won't see it, but
Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken. No,
no,
oh. I'm not taking Kevin to see that. That is
scary. Then
no. It just looks rubbish.
Oh, it does look rubbish. It does look rubbish. Yeah, I was going to say it does look rubbish. It looks rubbish.
It just looks rubbish. It just, I mean, I didn't.
There was a trailer with like the fire and the water and all that.
The fire and the water. They have a city, city where the four elements live in there. So you have fire, water, wind, and earth. And
that does sound really rubbish.
The what?
That does sound quite rubbish.
No. That's the good one.
Oh, is that the good one? That sounds quite rubbish.
No. That's the good one because it's kind of like it's Pixar doing the whole thing, like where you have this element and you have a city and you have these 4 different elements that live in the city. So there's the fire people, the water people, the wind people, and the earth people. Okay. And there's a whole thing about elements don't mix. And so the whole idea is that the elements can't mix, and then it becomes like this thing where there's a fire girl and a water guy. And they must be having a budding romance and how like different prejudices stop. So essentially, it's Pixar being all like what's the word, metaphorical? Yep, about things and stuff.
So, kind of making me think of Divergent.
Heck no! No, so, like, no, heck no. No! Oh, you've just ruined my evening. But anyway, I did say when we're talking about the about Indiana Jones. I mean, if you listen to this, I'm not sure whether you've heard my review of No Hard Feelings because there was a screaming child who wanted to give her own review as well. And but that screaming child did go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with me. Didn't scream through the film, which I'm very, very thankful for. And I was talking about you know how films are made of their time. And in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, there is one black character. It's a black woman. So it's the 60s. She shows up. She has an afro and everything like that.
Yeah.
And
I thought actually it's quite funny going back to that film. I thought she was going to have more of a part to play than that, to be honest with you.
And this might tell you how different life experiences shape different things. Because I was surprised she had that big a part to play.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I was surprised she had that big a part to. Yeah. So and it's okay. I'm just trying to find her name. Destiny cast. I know it's a double barrel thing. Yes, Shaunette Renee Wilson. And so she shows up on screen, and my daughter's been watching this film, and she's just been going, Bearing in mind that my daughter is a black girl, and so she's just watching and going, yeah, Harrison Ford, yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, yeah, Mads Mikkelsen, yeah, Anthony Brothers, yeah, Toby Jones, whatever. The second Shaunette Renee Wilson shows up on screen, my daughter goes, and points at the screen and goes, "Who's that?" And I was like, oh wow, maybe there is something to this representation thing. Maybe there is something to this. There have been 4 films and I can't really remember one black character, and then all of a sudden you have one black character straight away. A 2.5-year-old points at the screen and goes, "Who's that?" So I just thought I'll share that. That was just the final thing I want to say about Indiana Jones. I just say well done for getting a little bit more diversity in the cast.
But that's not that hard.
It is. It really isn't. It really isn't. But okay, Shaun, one thing before we go. Yes. There was a character in this film who I can only describe as comically big. Do you remember? One of the henchmen.
One of the hoods.
One of the hoods.
Yeah.
He was comically huge.
He was, ridiculously.
Ridiculously huge. And I have to go away and find out if that's actually a real person, or if there's actually his dimensions, or if they had CG'd somebody because if it's a real person,
wasn't he?
What?
He was huge. He was. I know exactly the one you're talking about.
He was comically huge.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at him, and I'm just in case it's a real person, I don't want to say things that would sort of like, I don't know, big shame him or size shame him or anything like that. But I was looking at him going, those dimensions don't work. I don't think those dimensions. And I was watching this thing, and I was like, I think this has been CG'd to make this guy look bigger, just because but I'm looking at him, and he's a guy called Olivier Richters, and I'm looking at a picture of him, just like a headshot, and he's big.
Big, yeah.
He's big. Yeah, he's huge. It might not be. He's 7'2".
Oh, he is then. He is.
Yeah,
he would be.
He's 7'2", but I still feel like they bulked him up a bit in the film because something about the. But anyway, never mind. On that note, I'm going to say thank you very much. See you guys next week. I'll go see Elemental, and until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for listening this far. Find us online. Find us on Twitter. Find us on I think we're going to start on Threads as well. Find us on Threads.
Yep. I literally just set myself up a Threads account as we've been speaking.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Find us on Threads, Netflix via Cinema, and and on YouTube, of course, Netflix via Cinema. Tell us what you thought about the films we spoke about, and tell us where you thought we are talking out of our rear ends or something. Man, he's huge. But until then, see you guys. Bye.
See you later, Toast. Bye, mate.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.